All right, 111 folks. So we're talking about Unit 2. We're talking about Chapter 3. We're talking about India. We're talking about the invasion of the Aryans. And with the Aryans come with them their Vedic religion. And with the Vedic religion, we got an imposing upon society of the caste system. Not that it doesn't exist, but it's going to further cement it in. And the caste system is made up of what we call the Varnas. And the Varnas are about a class in society. And so each of the Varnas, and officially there's 4, but within each of the Varnas, there's also kind of a subcaste called a Jati, Jati. And a Jati is usually related to what occupation, what job, what do you do for a living. And it's kind of a subcaste within the Varnas itself. There's 4 basic Varnas to begin with in the early Vedic age, and it's important that you remember what they are. The first one is going to be the Brahmins, and the Brahmins are at the tip top of society. The Brahmins are the priests. All right, the Brahmins are the priests. They control the religion. They control the society. It's their interaction through ritual, their interaction through prayers, the Brahmanas, that determine what the gods are going to do, what they expect, what they don't expect. And so that's kind of important stuff along the way. And so the Brahmins are up top there. Now, if you read the Purusha document talks about the sacrifice of Purusha, and that the Brahmas actually come from, his head at that particular point. The next class in society is going to be the Kshatriyas. And the Kshatriyas are going to be the warrior sect. They're going to be the nobles. They're going to be the leaders. They're going to be the Rajas and the Maharajas, right? The kings and the princes and the chieftains. It's that ruling class of society right beneath the Brahmins at that particular point. That also tells you that they lead by example. The fact that indeed the warrior caste is part of that ruling caste is huge. The next step down is going to be the Vaishyas. And the Vaishyas are important because they're the merchant class, they're the trades class, they're the professionals beneath the ruling class, but above the lowest class. And what's important about those top 3 classes is all those are made up of folks who are indeed from the Aryan peoples. Because the last class is going to be the Shudras. And Shudras are, everybody else. If you were pre-existing, if you're not a leader, if you're not any of those other things, if you're not Aryan, then you're going to fall into the everybody else category, the Shudras. And that's important because there are certain privileges that are aligned with the Aryans and their beliefs in those upper castes. There's going to be one more caste in the later Vedic ages, and that one later caste is going to be the untouchables. Well, here's what you have to know. The untouchables do jobs that make them ritualistically unclean. When it comes to the Hindu faith, anything that handles dead things and dead people is going to make you ritualistically unclean. And so those are the people who are indeed going to do those jobs. Well, what else do we need to know? As far as the caste system, it's built into to be part of the faith, and the Hindu faith is kind of significant. It's a little bit different than what Christians believe, and so I like to make sure we hit that. The way the faith works is not simple at all. They believe in the circle of life. They believe in something called the transmigration of souls. And the transmigration of souls is that your soul, your Atman, is permanent. It's permanent. And what happens is at your very beginning, at your very inception, your soul is separated from Brahma. It's separated from Brahma, that greater being, that creator of all things. It's separated from him, or her for that matter, and you begin your existence. And your mission in life, in many lives, is to get back to Brahma. Kind of the Christian ethos that, eventually if you live a good life, then you die and to live forever in the presence of God. The idea here is that you'll live a life that you'll learn, and that if you learn enough, you're going to achieve moksha. And moksha is, it's the extinguishment of your individual identity, that you cease to exist as an individual and you become once again part of Brahma. And that's important because that is their mission. That is their plan overall that they're trying to do, is get back to their God. And what it is you do it through several lifetimes because it's a learning process. So the transmigration of souls is that you're born. You live your life, that you learn, you die, and then you pass on. You pass on, yes, but then you are going to be reincarnated. And you will be reincarnated, not again as you, but as a different form of you. And the idea being here is simple. As you live your life, you have duties. You have responsibilities. That's your dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A. And if you fulfill your dharma during your life, then what's going to happen is you're going to create karma, which is a kind of an energy. And if you do your dharma well, if you do your duty, regardless of what position you're at, you have a duty. If you do your duty, then you create positive karma. If you don't do your dharma, then you're going to create negative karma, a bad thing. And what will happen is when you finally die, it's going to resolve the issue. If you create a good positive karma, then what will happen is you get to be absent from this life a bit longer, which is good. And when you come back as a better reincarnation of yourself. All right, whether that is up the evolutionary scale, whether is that is up the caste, the Varna scale of position in life, but the idea is you get an opportunity to learn more from a better angle. Now, if you created a lot of negative karma, then you might come back down the evolutionary scale. So I say, listen, guys, if you were a dog in this life, then you might really be a dog in the next life. The idea being is that life is a learning experience, that you're born. You live your life, you learn, and hopefully you learn enough that you will eventually go on. And the idea is through several lifetimes of learning and experience of how to do this and to get better at it and be a better person, that you're going to eventually achieve moksha and escape this existence. And so that's the whole idea, is to escape this existence. And part of that is through the generation of karma. Part of that is going to be applying the principle of what we call ahimsa. Ahimsa, which pops up in a couple of religious versions of this idea, and that's to do no harm. So the idea of the reincarnation, the idea of the ahimsa, is why many people of the Hindu faith are vegetarians, because they feel that every living being has an atma and has a soul, and that it might be a reincarnation of another being that's learning and living as they go along, because you don't always come back in a human form. Sometimes your trials are such that you come back in another form, and so they don't want to injure, they don't want to hurt that spirit, and so many of them are indeed going to be a bit more vegetarian. Now, there's a couple other forms of religion I wanted to talk about. I want to talk about Jainism, I want to talk about Buddhism, which are variations of the Hindu faith, because they're going to take that same premise of achieving moksha in a couple of different fashions, but their approach is going to be different. And the approach to it is kind of huge, because what they're trying to do is not take several lifetimes in which to do this, but they're going to try to go about it in a different fashion. So they're looking at the same basic core beliefs. They're looking at the same pantheon of gods. They don't necessarily revere them in the same fashion, but they are looking at that same transmigration of souls and moksha that all goes with that. So I'm going to go ahead and pick that up in the next video.